If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
Emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online, email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat, locate his hidden assets, locate his hidden bank accounts, find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages. Create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Welcome to the Opperman Report. Who am I? I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. And you can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consultant. Today's my birthday. Happy birthday to me. September 9th, 2022. Man, how time flies, man. I can remember when I was a kid, we thought the year 2000 would be like a driving rocket cars, you know. Here we are, 2022. About to hit 2023. Okay, you can email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com, which is better than calling. You can find my Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. I got a lot of great content going up there. We're uploading almost every single night now. And also to Spreaker, you go to Spreaker.com. That's where the chat room is. And you get an email notification when we put up new content. I do a live show every Friday night, and I play repeats every night on Spreaker. Now, we've had some issues because, what do you call it? YouTube, our YouTube channel got shut down, right? Now I never put a lot of emphasis on the YouTube channel because I wasn't getting paid by YouTube. YouTube had stopped paying me years ago. And it was kind of a high-maintenance nuisance. But the thing is, those shows on YouTube were getting about 100,000 plays a month. And I guess a lot of those people, when they would watch the YouTube video, they'd see the link for Spreaker, and they'd click on that link. So, because they shut that down, I am seeing a huge decrease in the income with the Spreaker money, which I need that money to live on. And we're talking like a 30% decrease from last month. And even last month wasn't that good. So, if you can help us out here by sharing the Spreaker links on your Facebook and your Twitter, your Instagram, whatever you can do there, LinkedIn, however you can help out with that. And also to, Patreons, if we had some Patreons, the Patreon numbers are pretty down too. Or the good old donations in the old days. We used to take those donations. Got that donate button at OppermanReport.com. There was a time we lived on those donations. Also, to advertise, you want to advertise on the show, I'll give you a great rate right now. I'll give you a great rate. I'm not having a cake or anything, guys. No birthday celebration whatsoever. As a matter of fact, as you know, all the friendly people in the chat room here, I've done those shows in the past. I was born again, and I began my repentance, the born again rebirth experience on my birthday, September 9th. Oh boy, close to 40 years ago. Or 30 years ago, I guess it was. Who knows? And I've always had big events in my life on my birthday. And there's a good chance I have one right now. It's either going to blow up in my face, okay, because I'm a little cautious about the opportunity here, a little too good to be true, or we'll have a good situation, and I'll have some of the biggest cases I've ever worked on. So yeah, that's where that is. We'll see what happens, and we'll have some benefits to the show too as well, to the reporting on the show. So let's hope, let's hope that this is going to be good news, and I'm not being taken for a sucker. Because I'm kind of getting that feeling. It's kind of being led along by the nose here. Okay. So coming up after this tonight, we have two shows, two old favorites to the show. One is Daniel Hopsicker, who's coming on. Everybody loves Daniel Hopsicker, MadCowProdNews.com. And we're going to be talking about the guy, John Gray, who became the big 9/11 truther, who was funded and sponsored by Adnan Khashoggi. And he actually wrote the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, which became like the highest selling book at the time. And that's because of Adnan Khashoggi. And Genesis Media was doing infomercials for that book. And that's and of course with Hopsicker we get into other stuff too. You can't stop the guy. You can't. His new book is coming out, so Gangster Planet. It's on the way out. It's coming out like in 30 days. Then we have Casey Gane McCalla coming back on the show. Well, I tell you, the Casey Gane McCalla has calmed down so much over the years. I remember when I first had him on, he would talk so fast and he would interrupt. It was very difficult to interview him. And he's come light years, man. He's doing so much better. So the deal with him is, he's from Cambridge and Boston, and he knew a couple of the Boston bombers. So this Hulu documentary just came out this week called The Murderers Before the Marathon. Okay? And, I just happened to coincidentally play a repeat of my interview. I did a previous interview with Casey Gane McGalla about the Boston bombing murders, and he knew these people. And he had some theories and suspicions. And someone heard that, and they heard me ask him, is anybody else reporting on this? Thinking it was a new show. And I contacted him, and he says, yeah, Ed, this woman, there's a Hulu documentary. It's coming out tonight. Okay? And the woman who did the 3-part series, docuseries there on Hulu, she was all excited. She says, oh, the trailer's gotten 1.5 million views already. But I got to tell you, I watched her investigation. Turns out she's a print reporter that doesn't have a lot of experience, only a few articles I could find. Very young. And they put in this, which almost like Jaws music throughout the investigative documentary there, which I'm always turned off by. I don't need suspenseful music to motivate me or encourage me to look into something. And they did that. And then her investigation itself was not that impressive. She's actually talking about how she used Facebook to locate this woman, and then sent a friend request, and then 30 days later was accepted. Okay, you located the woman. That's 2 seconds. You don't need to see this whole thing about how you were sending Facebook requests. So I felt her investigation was pretty thin. And when Casey Gane comes on, there's so much more. It turns out that one of these fellows there suspected of this murder was one of the guys who was murdered. Had a big bust, $100,000 worth of pot and drugs and guns, and he became some kind of, we suspect he became a police informant. And in fact, when you start digging a little deeper, it turns out that his attorney was this reporter's father. Okay, so you start getting into all that stuff. Then it's a whole new, things. You look at things in a whole new light. Rather than her investigation. And she doesn't mention any kind of CIA connections to any of these folks at all. So it's pretty weak. But so we're talking about that. And so we talk about the show, and we talk about Casey Gane McGalla's excellent reporting. Okay, so let's see what's going on for the week here. Like I said, I got the birthday situation. And it's probably one of the worst birthdays I've had in years. I spent one in jail. Okay, this is just about as bad as that one. There was, this week in Las Vegas, was the shooting of the murder of Jeff German. What is that called? Las Vegas Journal Weekly. He was a reporter there for many, many years. I never knew him personally, but we get this report that he was stabbed to death outside of his apartment. So right away, and we see people, everyone's contacting me. Oh, Ed, look at he investigated organized crime. Look at he investigated corrupt politicians. But when I was looking at the little bit of news that we had, it seemed to me it was more like a domestic disturbance. This was somebody he knew who was in his home, and the altercation, spilled outside, and he was stabbed outside of his apartment, which is the impression that I got. It turns out he was also speaking to one of our frequent guests here, the ex-wife Tasha Adams of the Stuart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers fellow, because there was some news with that too about the Oath Keepers leak of their database. And so she had been speaking to German this week, too, back and forth about some stuff, because he was investigating these right-wing political groups, too, and their connections to Las Vegas. So the next thing we hear is there's a suspect, and they have a photograph, someone's Ring doorbell. They got a couple of photographs of this guy, this suspect, and he's wearing this big, giant, floppy gardener's hat, a yellow vest, one of those yellow construction workers' vests, and these black gloves and big overhanging clothes, and the big hat, the floppy hat. You can't see his face. So as soon as you see this guy, it sticks out like a sore thumb, This is not, right away, this isn't an organized crime type murder, a little more amateurish, it would appear. And then, like a day later, they came out with photographs of the suspect's vehicle. Okay, which was a very distinctive because he had a certain kind of roof rack on it. So it turns out they made an arrest of this fellow named Robert Tellis, Telles. He's the Clark County Public Administrator. Now, a small world, as it would be, my daughter, her ex-boyfriend, who was her debate partner in debate when they were in high school, went to work for the mayor's office. And he knows this guy, Robert Tellis. He has these photographed with him in a restaurant. We have a picture, you know. So who is Robert Tellis? In Clark County, he was an attorney who specialized in wills, probates, and estates. And his job for the city of Henderson, or the city of Las Vegas, to tell you the truth, I don't know which one it is, was that he would secure someone's residence if there was a death. You know, to make sure that the family's not running in there, you know, and selling off all his belongings before it could be, administrated through the will or whatever process they had set up, or probate perhaps. So there was a lot of allegations of corruption. And as a matter of fact, you know, we've done a couple of shows on here. One was called The Guardians, which focused a lot on Las Vegas and the Guardian system there, which is extremely corrupt and extremely dangerous. And basically what happens is they have excellent documentary, by the way. You can find it online for free. What happens is these old people who go to their doctors, you know, and the doctors are saying, oh, you know, how are you? So, oh, I'm so lonely, doctor. My kids don't talk to me anymore. All my family is gone. I have nobody. And the doctor's ears perk up. Nobody. That's right, doctor. I have nobody helping me. Nobody comes visits me anymore. All my friends are dead. And this is really going on, guys. The doctor's office runs a credit check. Okay? And if they see that the woman has a lot of assets, they call up their buddy at the conservatorships, because they have hired civilian conservators in Vegas. And so then they says, okay, we're going to declare this woman incompetent, and we're going to give this conservator, is going to go over there, they're going to show up at their door, and knock on their door and say, hi, how are you? I'm here to take over your life. Okay? And you can either submit to me, and we're going to take you in for an evaluation to the psychiatric institution there. Or I'm going to have to call the police. We're going to have you placed under arrest. So everyone right away says, oh, my goodness, I don't want to be arrested. Of course I'll go to the doctor's office. I'll go to the hospital, right? And then when they get them in the hospital, they pump them up full of drugs. They get them on Thorazine. They're in there with everyone else. And there's a mental illness. You can't have a conversation with anybody, really. So by the time they put you in there, now you are incompetent. Now you can't function. Now you can't communicate. And I had some personal first-hand dealings with these mental institutions there, these psychiatric facilities there in Nevada, and they're a nightmare, okay, where they didn't even have a listed phone number. You couldn't get through to the phone for them to pick up the phone and arrange for visits and stuff. It's a nightmare. So this guy is like involved in that process, this fellow Tellis here, okay? And as a matter of fact, when you see this documentary, you'll see that he would go to some of these doctors and these attorneys and these conservators who were running these and knock on their door, and these were like shady, dangerous guys. Another connection to our friend there, Mr. Tellis, Robert Tellis, okay, is you might remember we did a show, What Happens in Vegas, or What Happened in Vegas, about some guy who got beat up by the cops in front of the strip club in Vegas. He comes on the show and he tells me, yeah, we saw the cops beating this guy up, so we got on the phone and we called 911. And then when the cops responded, it was the same cops, and they beat us up. And, I'm sort of like, well, yeah, what'd you expect, man? Like, what were you thinking, And he got all offended, and plus in the chat room, too, everybody's making fun of this guy and on YouTube. And they say he got so offended with me, he didn't want to deal with me anymore. And he was doing those copyright violations on YouTube to get the video taken down. So in his film, he tapes with this fellow out here named Steve Sampson, who runs an organization called Veterans in Politics. Now, Veterans in Politics is a ridiculous PAC type operation. They have the paperwork's all, it's all, they don't have the 501c, correct? Then they have a YouTube video interview show, but like 10 people watch it, 15 people watch it. And so this fellow here, Tellis, was on there as well. So when you hear that, when I see Steve Sampson in this documentary about how to, what happens here in Vegas, I kind of laughed, and I says, well, how'd you get mixed up with him? How did you wind up with your film here? Because, this guy, he became like he had a problem with some attorneys in family court. So then he decides to become a court watcher, and he would go down there with his group, and they would watch the court hearings and stuff like that, and pretty much disrupt things, and make a nuisance out of themselves, and hire homeless people to protest out in front. A lot of interesting stuff goes on there. So he interviewed this fellow, Robert Telson. And also on that show, too, was our good friend, Kevin L. Child. We did so many reports on when this guy somehow wrangled his way to be on the school board trustee. And we shed enough light on him that, thank God, our children were saved from this guy and his shenanigans going on over there. So it turns out Robert Tellis, becomes a suspect right away, because not only had he been leaving threatening voicemails on Mr. Gurman's phone number, but he was sending him threatening text messages and emails as well, and even some tweets, some public tweets complaining about Gurman. So the police didn't solve this crime. The crime was solved by the Las Vegas Review-Journal reporters who, said, hey, man, this guy's a prime suspect. Let's take a look and see if he's driving that same car that just killed our friend. So they go over there, and they see him washing the car. The same car. Out in front of his house. And you think, man, but park the car somewhere, man. Take an Uber, maybe rent a car for a few weeks. There's things you can do, Oh, my God. Then it turns out that our friend here, Mr. Tellis, he had taken the hat, the straw gardener's hat, and he'd cut it up with the knife, I guess the same knife he used to kill the man. And then his shoes still had fresh blood on it. So when and his DNA, too, was under Mr. Gurman's fingernail. So they must have fought back. So this is an open and shut case here. We got this case down cold here. Mr. Robert Tellis is going to be doing life in prison. Even though he is an attorney, he may get a better deal, but definitely I see a conviction in his future. Again, a new pair of clean footwear that don't have fresh blood on them. Hey, but this brings up, and I've been meaning to talk about this for a while now, because also, too, in Opperman World, I totally remember that guy, right? In Opperman World is Lauren Boebert. And as you know, we've had on this group, these American Muckraker PAC, that went after Maddie Cawthorn and then went after Lauren Boebert. We had him on here twice. We're talking about Explore Talent and all that stuff like that, her sugar daddy dating website and all her activities. He just was threatened by armed men, and so much so that he feared for the life of his children, that he's closing down shop on Boebert, And as he came out with, and plus, if you go to that FireBoebert.com website, you'll see on there 911 calls from Boebert's neighbors talking about, her husband is this crazy guy, and he's probably, the Boeberts, they're armed to the teeth. They're armed to the teeth. Whoever has a problem with them, their dogs start dying, their horse starts getting poisoned. Like, you hear these stories over and over and over again. So I've been meaning, because, a lot of times, you'll hear me asking a guest, well, have you had any, since you've been reporting on this, have you had any pushback? Have you had any threats? And I got to tell you, I've been involved in some stuff. And, of course, you get the cranks who make threats, and they're not really a concern. You get these mentally ill people that are just drawn, attracted like flies. to the buzz on the radio, it will become a nuisance and annoyance. There's that. I've had professional threats, several, where that I take very serious. But there, and it's because I do a lot of celebrity stuff too, right? And it's like an unspoken secret, or a well-known secret, with whatever that phrase is. It's like a well-known secret that there's people out there in the entertainment world that are professional stalkers, professional fixers types, and dangerous guys. These are dangerous people. And it's not just that it's going to become a physical thing right away, because you almost kind of would wish it would, But it's just this constant harassment, the phone calls, the text, the emails, the online, contact, where they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And what they're basically doing is just harassing you enough that you'll shut up and leave them alone. And you'll say it's just not worth the headache dealing with this subject matter or talking about something the celebrity did. And you'll have no idea how much more dangerous and tricky and dangerous that area of reporting is, reporting celebrity gossip, and how many people are out there, these types, that are professional stalkers. They're professional stalkers, and what the problem is too is when you got 2 or 3 of them coming at you at once, it's time consuming. And some of these people put hours into this in a day, hours and hours and hours. And even where it could only take me like 5 minutes to delete, go through, delete. This guy's spending hours, man, on this stuff, So they got the time. And it seems to track these people with mental illness. And we even saw in WikiLeaks where that guy Podesta said, "Oh yeah, we've got people that are mentally insane, and we will sick them on them. They weaponize people with mental illness." That's something that goes on, and people need to realize all this stuff. Now, what the hell is this? Oh, let me see what we're doing time. Oh, yeah, we're good. Okay. This brings up the other issue, because of why you don't hear certain reporting, why you don't hear about certain things, and people think it's like, well, this big MK Ultra program where they control the news and they control the celebrities. Where really it's not. It's just a couple of really dangerous fixers that are everyone's doesn't want to have to deal with them, so they let them get away with this crap. Now, I don't know how I'm gonna try and segue over to this situation here with Trump. Now, I'll tell you how I'm going to segue there, because I'll just come right out and tell you. Okay? Because talking about this kind of threats and harassment and catch and kill and silencing reporters and silencing the tabloids, purchasing stories and then killing them, we all know everyone knows about the one case I had with the Epstein-Trump case. Okay, everyone knows about that one. But there were a lot of that kind of stuff was going on in the background, okay? A lot of that stuff was going on, okay? And a lot of people will say to this day, too, right, that, the judge drew the case out, okay? Now, there was an initial case. It was a do-it-yourself type case that was thrown out. But then it was all written, and real lawyers came in, and real big lawyers, Cheney Mason, Lisa Bloom, real lawyers were involved in this case. It wasn't some kind of small-time operation. But most people don't know the stories in the background about the judge in that case, Ronnie Abrams. Ronnie Abrams, the judge in that case, is the sister of Dan Abrams, the Court TV guy, He used to be on MSNBC. He has that Crime and Justice channel now. He used to do. He narrates and hosts. What's that thing? 60 Days In. Okay, that Dan Abrams. His sister was the federal judge in this Epstein-Trump case. Okay. Their cousin is Elliot Abrams, the Elliot Abrams, the one who was the ambassador to Venezuela during the recent coup attempt and all that. Well, that guy, who was appointed, by the way, by Mr. Trump. So now we have, so you see, you have that other layer, okay, of a defendant in a position where he can manipulate things behind the scenes by doling out ambassadorships, okay, to people who have cousins. Okay. Now there was a bunch of other things. I had a bunch of notes on Elliot Abrams and this woman here. Let me see if I can find it, because this cast of characters, man. Where was this? There was something in there that just blew me away. Maybe if I take a break, I'll find it. Oh, I almost forgot. This woman, Ronnie Abrams, was born in 1968. And where do you think she lived and was raised? In New York City's Upper East Side, where she attended the Dalton School. The Dalton School. Who was a teacher and without a college degree, who was an instructor over there at the Dalton School, none other than Jeffrey Epstein. And if you look at the dates, they probably overlap. Okay, and I haven't done enough work, but this will give you an idea of the web that we're dealing with here, right? So now there's all this stuff going on right now about this Judge Cannon, okay, who's handling the search warrant. This judge with the search warrant here, right? And I heard people complaining about this judge, and I says, it's sour grapes. Okay, yeah, Trump went 70 miles to go shop for this judge, and he found a judge, and he appointed. Okay, fine. But, listen, the judges aren't crazy people. They're not irresponsible. It turns out this one is, okay? First of all, she comes from Cali, Colombia, okay? There's no one knows where she gets her money from. She's only been a lawyer for 12 years. She's a lifetime federally appointed judge after only having been a lawyer for 12 years. Unheard of. No qualifications. She's a very young lady, too. She's like 38 years old. Her husband looks like he's 25. This guy Cannon. But you want to know what? She was also the judge in Trump's lawsuit against Hillary Clinton. So he's had this judge in his pocket for a very long time. And she's trying her best. Okay, now, again, too, with the whole issue about the special master. Everyone's in an uproar. Oh, how dare she appoint a special master? It's not a big deal. You appoint a special master, okay, under normal circumstances. This is where you got to pay attention. You appoint a special master because, well, there could be attorney-client privilege communications within this paperwork. That's what they're alleging. Some of this stuff is attorney-client privilege, okay? And in that case, the prosecution can't see communications between the defense and his attorneys, which in this case would be this nutty chick, Bob, okay? Oh, by the way, this woman, Bob, was at the January 5th war room. There's video of her being at the war room before the January 6th insurrection. So she's been involved with all of that in this election fraud all the way from the start. Now, how does she become the custodian of records of all this top secret material? What business does she have being in charge of that material at Mar-a-Lago beach resort? Okay. What's my theory last week that I laid out for you for hours and hours and hours? And by the way, too, I got many, many compliments on my show last week, laying out my whole theory about what the attorney-client privilege is, and all my reporting that I'm doing about Sidney Powell and this whole situation. Because, see, if there's any attorney-client privilege, that's what's going to be. It's going to be Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and this chick Bob, okay? And what are they all doing? They're all working on the election fraud, right? That there's election. By the way, but saying election fraud is what got my show taken off of YouTube. I used the word election fraud. And so YouTube said I was spreading lies about the election being fake, about the big steal. They don't even pay attention to what you're reporting. Just look at keywords and destroy 10 years worth of work. The theory here is this. Trump wanted those documents. He wanted those top secret documents because he wanted to show foreign interference in the election. Okay? Sidney Powell photocopied some stupid little reports and things like that. It was all nonsense. I read the whole thing. It's garbage. But maybe they could come up with something that could look like foreign interference, right? The Venezuelans, right? Whatever. Macron was interfering over there, Le Pew, from France. And if they could demonstrate that there's foreign interference, then he can use his special powers that Sidney Powell knew those numbers, that executive order right off the top of her head. She was reciting it every 5 seconds. This is why Patrick Byrne inserted an affidavit. Well, you're not hearing this stuff anywhere, are you? It's as clear as the nose in your face. This is why Patrick Byrne is adding an additional affidavit to the search warrant, the litigation, saying, hey, man, Sidney Powell never had top security clearance. Okay? Or at least she didn't at the time, that she was fudging around with these documents. Everyone's all upset. Well, what? A special master, we can't have that. And I'm saying, what's it? Not a big deal. It's attorney-client privilege. Everyone's responsible. There's not that much shenanigans going on here. But there are. Because this Judge Cannon, in her 38 years of experience, in her 12 years of lawyering, okay, graduates law school 12 years ago, okay? Oh, my God. She says, well, not only with attorney-client privilege, but some of this stuff might be executive privilege, too. Some of this stuff might be a work product that Mr. Trump needs back. So she wrote this crazy, ridiculous order. It was really, really written by the Federalists. But we'll see what's going to happen here. Okay, I don't think that this Judge Cannon is going to be remaining on this too much longer. Okay, I think we're going to see her taking her leave shortly. And there's so much else going on here. Let me see how we're doing on time. Okay. Steve Bannon was taken away in handcuffs yesterday, screaming in the halls of the courtroom. They're not going to take me. You'll never take me alive, coppers. Okay. By the way, the reporting on the scam Build the Wall company, the Bannon and these other fellows, that reporting was initiated by Grant Stern, who's from Miami. He's been a frequent guest on the show. I think we've had him on 3 times. Okay. So, as a matter of fact, I should pull those shows out. When we did the first show with him, he's the one that started this whole, hey, what's going on here? Where's this money going? Okay. And then Trump pardoned Bannon the first time. He's not going to get a pardon this time. This is in New York State he's being charged with here. One of the directors, the board of directors on this Build a Wall foundation just resigned today. So we're seeing this. So here we got a situation, and I get this, man. Trump pardons Bannon, okay? But all the January 6 people, he hasn't pardoned one of them. Meanwhile, they're all donating to Trump. They're all donating to Bannon, right? And Bannon's stealing their money. And it's just, and Trump's stealing their money too, telling him that he needs this money for to investigate the elections. Well, none of that money's going there. There's none of that's going to that. It's the Republican, the RNC is paying for that. Okay, so that's what's going on with Bannon. One last thing, and let me see what else we got. Because I built up some stuff here too. You never know, it could be something fun. Politico, DOJ, what's going on? Goodbye to that. Oh, hey, the Saudi Crown Prince has been boasting that he gave he got secrets from Jared Kushner, and I was talking about that a couple of weeks back too. Okay, 4 notifications. What's this? Oh, Mr. Tellis again. We're done with you, my friend. Goodbye, Mr. Tellis. I'll see you in prison. This guy's going down, man. What kind of a nut, man? How do you, if you're gonna if you're going to kill, and once you've made the phone calls, once you've made the threats, they're on tape. Once you've made the threats, they're written down on email. There is no way on earth you can go there and do that, hit yourself. You gotta be in front of witnesses. You have an alibi, an airtight alibi at the time of that murder. Otherwise, forget it. Your suspect number one, they got all this DNA stuff nowadays. They can find blood, saliva, all kind of things. Man, there's no evidence you're going to use a knife. I mean, a high-powered rifle from across the street. Hasn't this guy ever heard of Lee Harvey Oswald? Okay. Oh, my God. Okay. One last thing. Okay. One last thing. Because, we had this thing here. The Queen passed away, right? And now they're going to appoint Mr. Prince Charles to be King Charles, okay? It's going to be King Charles. Now, do you know that when they do this coronation, do you know this? It's called the Stone of Scone. It's either called the Stone of Scone or the Stone of Destiny. And this big rock, it's a real just regular rock, It's kind of square, like a brick almost. And they put it on a little shelf underneath the throne where the king's going to sit to be coronated, okay? But this will be the first time in history that any a king or queen has been coronated over there in England, and the Stone of Scone will not be present because it's in Scotland or something right now, okay? On display. I don't know what the deal is. Now, the theory behind the Stone of Scone, okay, is that Jacob took a nap on the stone, and then he had a dream that he had to fight this angel, and he wrestled with this angel until the angel gave him a blessing. And this is the actual rock that they think that Jacob laid his head on back in the Old Testament. What's that, 6,000 years ago? 6,022 years ago? I hope there's no math on all this. So that's how we're doing on time here. And I can't think of anything else. If there's Yes. Stone of Scone. Scone. Yeah, look it up, man. It's the weirdest thing, right? It's not scones that you would eat with a cup of coffee, but it's a big rock that you put your head on. And then you go battle angels. Oh, boy. Okay, let's see what else is going on. I don't think I have anything else in my notes. So I'm going to go through them quickly. Except for my birthday stuff. Oh. This is one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. And then once again, remind you, man, if we can get some help with that Patreon and get some, if you could do a yearly membership there, so you get like 10% off, And we're always adding new content. Let me see what we got new content in Patreon. Speaking of Mr. Macron. Because, Trump had a whole book on Macron, too. Okay, we got the Case of Reality Winner. This is a recent interview I just did with the Reality Winner's mother. Paul Fitzgerald and Elizabeth Gould, The Valediction. That was a great interview, too, as well. Ad-free. Occult Rejects, L.A. Lux, and the New York Patriot. It's all about the OTO, Aleister Crowley, The Beast. Again, ad-free. Tom Retman, Music and Revolutions. Oh, this was a good guy. I met him on Instagram. Yeah, and he was like a musician and like a historian on punk bands and stuff like that in their use. And then Annika Lucas, Quest for Love, Memoir of a Child Sex Slave. That's exclusive. That hasn't been played anywhere yet. Caroline Robinson, Jimmy Savile victim. That's the great niece of Jimmy Savile. I interviewed her about 10 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. Delightful woman, and she tells me, oh yeah, when I was 12 years old, everyone knew Jimmy Savile was coming to the house, and he was a big DJ at the time, and so I remember how my mother and my father, they bought me this beautiful little dress, and when Jimmy Savile came in, they sat him at the head of the table with all this food and drink, and they brought me over to him and put me down on his lap, and then that's where the nightmare began, right in front of the whole family. Everybody just watched, thought it was just the funniest thing in the world. She doesn't see him again for about 5 years. On her 19th, when she's 19 years old, she's having an engagement party. And Jimmy Savile showed up at her engagement party, got her off in a corner, and molested her again. And it's Caroline Robinson. And that's pretty much an exclusive interview. It's very hard to find. Than anybody else has interviewed her. And then we got some more Hoffenberg stuff in there. Oh, boy. Let's see how we're doing on time. 44? We got about 10 minutes, right? Any questions in the chat room? Want to answer me a question? We got to fix this thing with so I can take calls, you know? But it's such a mess. Yeah, if you guys had any idea, you know, talking about all the harassment and stuff like that, if you had any idea what goes on at that level with the hacking and that's a whole nother, the shadow banning, I can't even find my own shows by Googling them. I got to go to DuckDuckGo. And then you can put the same phrase in, they pop right up. You know, Opperman, Spreaker, you know, the Princess Di. And the show comes right up. But if you do it with Google, nothing shows up. So that's why we need your support, man. More than ever, guys. More than ever, we need your support. Okay, so you can support us at OppermanReport.com. OppermanReport at gmail.com. That's my PayPal. You can just do it right there directly. There's a donate button at OppermanReport.com. You want to get content, you know, and help support the show, we got good old Patreon. Go there, Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. And what is that like? It's like 1,000 shows up there, man. You know? No one has this many shows in their Patreon. How many uploads do I have? I'm going to find out. Like 1,000. It's not going to be 1,000. I know that. It's going to be like 400 or 500. I can't even tell how to figure it out. Oh, maybe I got down to the bottom. Nope, I can't. But there's many. I can tell you that. There's many. I can promise you that. It's more than I... post. Yeah, go to post and then it'll tell me. Nah. Oh, latest post. No. I don't have to figure it out. All right, guys. So I guess, happy birthday to me. Like I said, it's always on my birthday. It's been very eventful times. And this could be... and I got some calls from some people today that would fit into this whole big picture. And some of the biggest opportunities I've ever had as far as litigation cases go, to get work. So we'll find out if I'm being taken for a sucker here or not. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Coming up next will be, I think, Hopsicker's first. No, let me see how I set it up. Casey Gain will be first, okay? And then it'll be Mr. Daniel Hopsicker. So, okay, guys. Thank you so much. Good night. And now a word from our sponsors.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland Street Scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at KMDLaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to KMDLaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio.